Welcome to episode 8 of Sora is Bad, where we go through the recent page on Sora. We talk about the different videos that we find, the good things, the bad things, hopefully have some laughs along the way. And right off the bat, I found video number 1. So let's see what this prompt is. Try, fail. A pretty simple prompt. I figured it was going to be something like somebody studying with piles of books on the table, but it's not. What caught my eye about this, I'll just play it through. It's like a magic trick. That pen just disappears. And on this one, I could see there being times when somebody might use a textbook sideways. Maybe there's a graph on there, or, something unusual. But not quite like that. So let's break this down. First of all, they look to be very intensely looking in this book, maybe taking some notes. The writing isn't all that natural. I guess, maybe it's okay, but they're not actually moving their hand across as they write. Maybe they're sketching a little picture or diagram. Who knows? I'll let that one slide. Next, let's take a look at this pen. So they're writing with it. They go to put their fingers through their hair. It kind of retracts a little bit right there. And then poof, it's gone. It's almost like a magic trick for real. It's kind of funny. A serious expression on the face, that's okay. And then this part, writing in the book sideways, it's kind of hard to tell the depth here. Like that looks like a laptop back there, but it also looks like the book is kind of in front of the laptop, like sitting on it, not in front closer to the camera where that would actually work out. And then it looks like they're writing in the book. Again, sometimes people do that, but the book is sideways. So this isn't the worst we've seen by a long shot, and I always mention this, the image quality looks good. He looks like a real person. The lighting is good. The scenery is good. The camera movement's pretty good in this too. It kind of moves around just a little bit. Not like a perfect kind of dolly out, I guess it would be, but there's some more natural movement to it, which is pretty good. Also, if this was supposed to be the same scene for continuity reasons, you wouldn't have him at this table with a bunch of books and no computer in front of him, and that pen is different from this pen. So maybe this is a different scene. Maybe it's just showing like he's studying hard all day from morning until night, and then it automatically goes. Another thing that we see quite often with Sora is it will just kind of choose to have two separate scenes in the same generation. Now this is a 10-second long one, 10-second at 480p, so maybe it's more likely with longer ones, but it is something we see pretty regularly even when it's not prompted to have two separate scenes or a transition between them or something like that. So let's take a look for number 2. This can be number 2. So this is, I guess, chaotic makes a little bit more sense now. A chaotic racetrack set in a snowy landscape illuminated by colorful neon lights. The young man in the red jersey drives a sleek gold sports car, while the CEO maneuvers a black muscle car. They race through obstacles like giant candy canes and ramps with fireworks lighting up the night sky. So right off the bat, I wish I could zoom in a little bit more. This looks like, pretty outdated video game graphics. It doesn't look realistic at all. They didn't ask for realistic, but unless they specify something like cartoon or illustration, it seems like it should default more toward realistic, especially when dealing with people. But again, we'll let that one slide. As we go through here, the car is just kind of like nonsensically on top of the track. They're not really like skidding or slipping in a way that makes sense. They're just kind of like forward, backward, to the side. Everybody else is slipping around. It's not an actual racetrack or anything like that. That thing in the middle, I guess that's supposed to be like a candy cane sort of deal, kind of gives some idea that this car is staying around there, and maybe even the ground is moving beneath it. I don't know. It's weird. Physics-wise, it's weird. Graphics-wise, it's not that great. I would consider this one a failure of a generation, even given that prompt. This won't count as number 3, but let's take a look at this. Now, another thing I'll mention in this episode, I did it in the last one too, I'm wondering if they're kind of upgrading things behind the scenes as time goes on, as more and more people use it and generate, because I am finding more little gems here and there that actually work out. So this is a close-up of a betta fish on a black background slow-mo. So if we take a look, those physics are plausibly good. Now, it does help that it's kind of like a large floaty fin that can obscure some of it. Like when it turns around, that part is a little bit wonky. So that kind of back to tail fin is up there, and when it turns around, it has like a big whoosh, and it's almost like, it's a little unusual for the movement, but it works for this. It works for what a betta fish looks like and what this movement might be like. And it is pretty slow-mo, not too slow-mo, but overall, I'm happy with this one. This seems like a successful generation to me. Looking for our real number 3, here it is. Breakdancing Jesus. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting some kind of like, kung fu or something like that. Tai Chi, I don't know. So it does look like a breakdancing scene. We've got some people around there. We've got some graffiti, some worn down buildings, all that sort of stuff. But it's still a very difficult thing for Sora to produce any kind of dancing, any kind of fast movement, any type of like gymnastics and stuff like that, and this is no exception. So first, let's step through it to see how many times he morphs. So right there, that's a very unusual movement. His arm behind and his one up top, it's kind of like jerks. And then all of a sudden, way out there, it looks like his head is starting to form, like where the end of his hands would be. Maybe it's a miracle, I don't know. So then his head comes back up and his arms just kind of pop back out. But let me step back again. So his outfit, it almost looks like a Jedi or something. Underneath, there's like a white shirt, and then he's got like a darker thing on top and his darker kind of skirt thing. But as soon as we go through here, all of a sudden that arm is just totally white. That sleeve is gone. So maybe he, pulled it out of the sleeve as he was doing that twisty flippy thing. I don't really know, but he keeps going around, and then we kind of lose track of what his front and his back one would be. Here I imagine his arms are maybe like straight out and he's standing on one foot and his other foot's kind of like tucked up here somewhere, but who knows. He kind of keeps flipping around, and then there's his head again, his arms, still one leg right there, flips around again in a very unusual way. There's his arms. I don't know where his head is for this one. Maybe it's like in a hood or something. Not too sure. Spins around again and boom, he's back up. Now, right here, I'm going to mention that face that is not good looking. Again, outdated video game graphics. It's not very realistic, even though the overall scene looks okay realism-wise. And now part of that could also be because these are generating at 480p rather than a higher resolution. But that's kind of another interesting swooping move. His leg is all in a white pant leg right there. Has it been like that throughout? It has. So let's look at this at full speed. That's where you can really see it's not moving quite right. Now this could be used maybe with some other effects to just portray him moving so fast that we can't even comprehend the movements or something like that. So this could potentially still be usable, but overall, it's pretty rough. For number 4, let's take a look at this bird. There is a storyboard. A vividly blue budgie flutters chaotically around a small colorful cage filled with toys and mirrors. Its feathers are vibrant and its eyes seem wide with excitement. The background is a sunlit room suggesting a bright, lively environment. The budgie chirps energetically, hopping from perch to perch and occasionally spinning in circles, displaying its lively and unpredictable nature. And then about halfway, you can see that the storyboard highlights underneath there. The budgie hangs upside down from a perch, flapping its wings wildly, showing off its acrobatic antics. So basically, yeah, just a little bird kind of doing bird stuff, hopping from perch to perch. They wanted it spinning around on there a little bit, and let's see what happens. I'm going to step through this. So the wings are there. So far, so good. It jumps like it's doing a little spin around, and the wings are still kind of okay there, even though I get a little bit lost with what's the front, what's the back. But what caught my eye and makes this pretty close to unusable is right here where it just kind of morphs around. So the head is up top here, and then it kind of oddly disappears. Maybe it's obscured by the wing, but it doesn't look like it, because even at this point we've got maybe the tail and both wings, and then as we continue around, that kind of like just warps from this side to this side. And the head, right there, we have 2 of them clearly visible. One right here, and that doesn't happen in reality. So that's an issue. So now all of a sudden it's just pointing toward the camera with both wings, one up to the right, one up to the left. We continue through, and all of a sudden it's gonna warp again. That's a pretty cool flip, but again, 2 heads, one down here, one up here. So this whole, not getting body parts right for people or for animals, and this actually, that second head stays there for a while, doesn't it? As it kind of hovers in place, then that second one disappears. We're back to just one head, kind of weird wing movement. I guess that could be, blur from the camera's shutter speed or something. It kind of gets lost there, but, it's just a poor generation, unfortunately. So full speed, this is what we're looking at. Very easy to see that the heads are just kind of coming and going as they please. Another unfortunate failure, and it kind of gives you something to work with. And I mentioned this quite a bit too. You might be able to trim this down to a second or two to get some amount of usable footage for what you want, but for this prompt, nope, I think this is a no-go. All right, let's take a look at this for number 5. So generate a video of a koki jumping onto the head of a dog. So I'm assuming that's a frog. This looks very frog-like, and that would make sense for the prompt. So let's play this through, and so far the frog is just kind of like sliding on top of those leaves, so we'll let that go. Then it just kind of like takes a little step onto the dog's head, and then right there, its back becomes its front. We see this all the time. Right. So it's kind of underside in the back. So right here, it's definitely its backside. Then it kind of turns into where its face starts to go around. That's his nose, I'm guessing, and the eyes kind of shift forward. The legs are still there, kind of awkward, but as we continue, its face comes out more and more. It doesn't jump or anything. It just kind of like hovers off the dog's head as it spins around. So it goes from this being a back leg. Once the face is more there, it kind of separates, and then once it starts to spin around, it decides that that's its front leg, and now it has this back leg. Continue on, it continues to rotate around, and then it doesn't push off anything, and it starts to go forward, almost like it's swimming, and right there we can see we have 3 legs. So this is a good example of, it has the subject matter, the lighting looks good. I like the shallow depth of field in this shot, but once the movement starts, it's just a no-go. All right, on to number 6. Let's just see what this is supposed to be. Draw a frustrated young male Asian doctor in a lab coat who is frustrated with his hand on his head. He is frustrated with his coworker who happens to be an orange anime koi fish. The anime koi fish is flopping around on the hospital floor instead of being productive. So that's an interesting prompt. This fish does not look real at all, and the main issue with it, it's just kind of like floating there in front. It has nothing to do with flopping around or being on the floor or looking realistic. It's just kind of like cut and pasted on top of this video. Now that young Asian doctor looks frustrated. He's putting his fingers through his hair. He kind of looks up. He's looking, kind of at the fish, but it's really like he's focusing past it, because, I don't focus on things right there. It just kind of continues on. The fish still doesn't really have any movement. And there, maybe he's really focusing on that fin right there. Now, this is another thing I've mentioned in videos. It looks like this is, some kid who just found out that they can get, this isn't even animated, but animated GIFs and like kind of put little picture collages together. They don't look professional, but they do what they want. While we were waiting for Sora to come out, people were saying, oh, this is a game changer. It's going to change the movie industry. It's not with generations like this. Compared to what they prompted, and they did a decent job prompting this one, this would be an unusable clip, not even a single frame from it. That fish just looks way too bad, even though the rest of it looks really good. The doctor himself, like even if we focus on the doctor, so the hair is a little bit weird. It kind of seems like it's growing a little bit here. We can see those spikes in the back, but that's a style that some people have, longer on the top and then shorter on the sides. But other than that, the expression is good. The movement is good. His eyes aren't like moving around all weird or anything. I could see this being a hospital hallway for sure. He looks like he could be a doctor. So all of that is good. With these generations, there are good parts, but even with all those good parts, that fish just ruins it, makes it unusable. For number 6, let's take a look what's going on here. Inside the dental examination room, the patient is sitting in a chair and the dentist is holding a scanner and scanning the inside of the patient's mouth. The examination room is neat and filled with modern equipment, and sunlight comes in through the window, creating a bright and refreshing atmosphere. The doctor and patient have relaxed expressions and the scanner is operating quietly. Then, about halfway through, they have the scanner scans the patient's teeth precisely and a 3D image appears on the screen. So that's a cool idea. I like that. This equipment looks interesting. Maybe something in the future would have this make a little bit more sense, but it does look futuristic in like equipment and stuff. But it does make it pretty easy to spot that this is AI generated right off the bat, because it doesn't make any real sense for a dentist's office. Now, they did specify that they wanted some expressions and stuff like that, but they're too far away and they are blurry, so that's not going to happen. We do have this monitor right here that's meant for this 3D image, and sure enough, that is a mouth. I could see that. It's a little bit creepy at first, but not too bad. The main issue is right here. So their mouth is open. They have 2 rows of teeth, but then their bottom jaw comes up and boom, opens into another mouth. That's a bit of an issue. You wouldn't be using this in a commercial, and for some reason it looks like there's an eye down there. So unusual for sure. This is one that looks pretty good at first sight, like, oh, that's cool, that was AI generated, but no, this would not be usable unless you're trying to scare patients away. For number 7, let's take a look at this. Make Lionel Messi Rosario Argentina wear a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey. Make him wear one, not wear. So that prompt is pretty rough. It looks like it's in English, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But, I get the idea, and it looks like Sora got the idea to a certain extent also. Although it does have some issues generating, actual people who look like themselves. Sometimes it replaces, or even like IP infringing, they try to stay away from that. But all that aside, this looks like a soccer player in a jersey. Turn around, it's Rosaria rather than Rosario. It has issues with text. But the main problem with this, so he's in this kind of alleyway thing. He turns around, he smiles. Maybe she's looking for a selfie or an autograph or something. Why is the next thing right there? His arm. Watch his arm. It's facing away from us. And then right here in one little movement, now that's facing toward us. That's the front of his bicep, his triceps, his elbow, and his hand would be, well, I can't really do it on the camera, facing toward us, while this other arm is still facing away. But then, and look at his shirt, it's like a quick change, or like one of those Chinese like masks that goes really fast. Kind of goes, and now he goes from facing away from us to facing toward us, and his head kind of stays the whole time. So he's facing toward us. His head looks away. He waves. His body is facing away from us. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, his body is facing toward us, but his head remains the same, and then he turns toward us. So let's watch this in real time. It almost looks like a good magic trick. Like if this was supposed to be a quick change, that would be great. That would be, not a perfect, but a really good rendition. His arm still kind of warps around and stuff. Unfortunately, it is just all too common for backs to become fronts, fronts to become backs, things to warp around, appendages to come in and out of existence. It makes an otherwise, decent clip pretty unusable. For number 7, I'm kind of interested to see what this is supposed to be. A beautiful Middle Eastern wife with hazel eyes and dark straight hair vacuuming with a futuristic vacuum that glows with neon lights. A happy little 5-year-old Middle Eastern child jumping on a 2-seated couch in the background. Dramatic yet funny shot. So going to the beginning, sure, that could plausibly be some kind of futuristic vacuum cleaner. I'll give it that. That kid is kind of on a little table next to the couch. Not actually on the couch, but it did get a 2-seated couch. I'm not sure what's kind of coming and going there. Is that like a ponytail? It almost looks like a dog ear or something, one of those floppy ones. And the legs are moving in an interesting way. It's almost like it was confused right off the bat. Should that foot be on the table or under it? Because it's kind of blurry there and then kind of warps up. So then they're in the air, kind of moving in a weird way, land on the table, face us. Like the faces are kind of garbled at this point. They don't really work anymore. And then kind of does a, yay, I landed. But then what's this coming in the frame? maybe it's the next version of the super duper vacuum cleaner. The boy warps over to there. Maybe he's just really quick. He jumps for joy at this cool vacuum cleaner. He's not jumping on the couch, mind you, and he is a lot bigger. So maybe this is capable of time warps. He went from this little kid to this, teenage kid in no time at all. And the mom has the power cord kind of going somewhere it probably shouldn't be. And even this new vacuum cleaner, we'll call it, kind of morphs in a weird way right there. Like this part just disappears. It doesn't retract. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't look like it's on purpose. It just kind of fades into nothingness. And then we have this thing. So watching it at full speed, it's just nonsense right from the beginning and, doesn't quite do it. So, another failure, unfortunately. For number 8, let's take a look at what's going on with these cars. A white BMW M3 driving in traffic with other various cars through a yellowish, warmly lit city at night. White BMW is the main focus. The other cars are of a different make and model. Scene takes place on a city freeway/highway with the city as a backdrop. Other cars are not BMWs. All cars are going in one direction. So they did specify that they're supposed to be going in one direction. The problem with this, you can see immediately, why is that car going backwards? And this is not unusual at all either. And if we step through, we can just find more and more issues. So that car is definitely going backwards, while that one closer to us is going forward. And even the traffic in the background. So we can see that these are driving this way, and there's another road right there. But as these continue, now there's almost like a road going there. We just saw this car. Oh, let me zoom back. So this car right here, this little white car in the background, it kind of starts to turn like it's almost going to run into that pillar, really. So it just doesn't make sense what's going on with the road there. As we continue through, it almost looks like this would be a road. These are headlights, and that might kind of go this way, but it's the wrong direction compared to those other cars. And then as the scene continues on, it just keeps going backward, and I'm not exactly sure, what is happening to this road? We don't really see a turn. We see grass on the other side of this guardrail, so it doesn't come here. So it doesn't go straight. It doesn't really merge into this road. It just kind of peters out into nothing. Maybe it's a tunnel underneath. That's possible. But anyway, some of that is kind of nitpicking. Overall, though, just the fact that this is going backwards on this road, they didn't ask for that. It doesn't make any sense. I've seen examples of this before, too. And then that's not even to mention these cars kind of popping in and out of existence. So as this goes on, this car right here turns into a red car. Right there. Now it's a little red car. Don't really know why, but it is. So right there, that red car kind of fades into the pillar, but then it kind of pops back out, almost like it's a little bit foggy, but it doesn't really make sense. So this one is a failure in many different ways. Maybe a little tiny clip of this could be used, although, maybe from right here to right here could be used. Then they reverse it so that car is actually going forward. And since these other cars at that point, if it's in reverse, right now they're moving, or right now they're going left to right, they would be going right to left. So it would look like that car is going really fast. And all of this, and I don't even know if that's an actual BMW model. That's another thing that it kind of gets wrong a lot. It might have a key feature or two, but overall, if somebody knows their cars, they'd be able to tell if it's accurate or not. For number 9, I'm just interested in what this is supposed to be. In a cozy living room adorned with festive decorations, a Bengal tiger family is acting like humans, preparing to decorate a Christmas tree. The mother tiger, standing on her hind legs, holds a string of twinkling lights in her paws, while the father tiger carefully places a star atop the tree. 2 tiger cubs excitedly play with ornaments, scattering them around. The room is warm, glowing with the light from a fireplace, creating an enchanting holiday atmosphere. Then, the tiger cubs hang ornaments on the lower branches of the trees. So, we have 2 tigers right off the bat. This is a little Christmas scene. Not exactly sure how that paw is holding that, but we'll let that slide for now. And also interesting that, there's some light here. There is a fireplace in the background, but there's no fire in it. It's a fairly warm scene. as we step through, oh, boom, there was a little tiger there. Cool. And then it just kind of jumps up in an odd way to put the ornament on there. The ornament disappears. It doesn't actually go on the tree anywhere. This tiger on the right is just kind of like, oh, dancing around a little bit in a way that, it couldn't support itself like that. It would fall forward. Along with that, they don't look very realistic. They do look like video game graphics, while the rest of the scene does look more realistic. So there's a mismatch there. If it was all realistic or all not realistic, that would be a bit better. But as it is, they just kind of look misplaced. So it doesn't have the 2 tiger cubs, but overall it has the idea. They wanted tigers kind of acting like humans, putting up ornaments, all that is good, but it misses a few key points. Well, I don't know if it's key, but it misses the fireplace, having multiple cubs, that sort of thing. So an interesting clip. It did catch my eye pretty early on. The movements are kind of odd. That tiger in the middle is pretty cute though, which is like, yeah, Christmas. But overall, not exactly what they prompted for. So not a terrible failure, but a failure nonetheless. For number 10, it's like this is just Warping Humans Day or something. Let's take a look at this prompt. Photorealistic and very mysterious, a man enters a portal in the middle of a city destroyed by an unknown tragedy many years ago. The man is dressed as a stalker with a backpack and a weapon. So this caught my eye because it does look interesting at first. It looks like a pretty dramatic scene. That guy is walking, but the issue is he's looking at us right now, and as he walks, he's walking away from us. And it's kind of unusual because if we take a look at the legs, the knees are bending in a way that, walking away from us makes sense. It's almost like his entire torso is spun around, not just his head, because the way his hands look, his thumb being over there, we can see the elbow there. It's almost like those would be facing us. So maybe he's some kind of futuristic cyborg where at his waist he can turn 180 degrees so he can walk that way but look this way. To me, this is one that it looks really cool. It's eye-catching. You could use that in a movie other than the absolutely humongous issue that he's turned around 180 degrees. Yet another thing we see pretty often, things that are, close, but then a major issue just makes it unusable. And you know what? Let's do a bonus one to end on a high note. A rat who is doing the Fortnite gritty dance. So I'm not sure about the Fortnite version of that dance, so I can't say he's doing that, but this is like a little rat in a little hoodie that works. It makes sense. He's wearing it well. The scene looks good. It's like a really wide angle, almost fisheye shot, and he's walking across the floor in a way that makes sense. Oftentimes when things are walking on the ground, the feet and the ground movement don't match up. So it almost looks like they're sliding on the surface a little bit, kind of like in old video games. But overall, I'm not sure about the gritty dance, so it could be way off. But this looks really good for a little clip. This could be used in something. This could be used in a snack commercials for, your cheese crackers or something along those lines. So I mention this in just about every video too, that Sora is capable of some good results, high quality, this looks great. But in a lot of clips, they either start good and then get derailed pretty quickly, or the physics are just off throughout the whole thing. This one overall is pretty good, and I don't think it'll take too much longer until they're able to update the model to get some of these issues fixed. And then hopefully this entire series of Sora is bad will just be something to look back on and laugh like, oh yeah, I remember when it was that bad, but now it's amazing. That is what I'm hoping for. I am rooting for high quality AI tools that people can use to get their ideas that are in here made and be able to share it with the world. So that's going to do it for Sora is Bad episode 8. I hope you've been enjoying the series so far. Come back for episode 9. We'll have some more laughs, and thank you for watching. Have a good one.